Well, boys, whenever you want. I mean, it's already recording. So,
Okay.
Hmm?
but
So
I am smoking a cigarette. So if you want me to finish it,
it's fine.
it makes a difference or
It's
not.
okay when you smoke. Makes no difference.
Pick up the kids.
Exactly. Think of the
I
key.
won. Two. I 1, 2, 3, 4. It's Jack and Papu and Lolo. Jack, Papu, and Friends podcast.
Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Jack, Papu, and Friends podcast. This week, our dear friend is LoPlo. We stream with him often. He's a very regular guest here. Appeared once, twice before, thrice now, maybe twice, maybe thrice, and fifth
It really
thice
depends of
in the
when.
future.
It really depends of when this video is released.
It's true. It's true. It will be coming soon. We're not telling you the time of recording, but you can tell
Timeline
from the
continuum
conversation.
is
Yeah.
slightly yeah.
So, today's topic is a seasonal topic in the world of video games. How are we dealing with the video game drought? The drought period being basically what's following up the major releases. So, November, December is when
Climate
the
change
big
is
titles
not
come
real.
out.
The Earth is flat.
Oi, stop it.
I
I'm
have no
vaccinating
comment
you.
towards this. I have no
Enough
comment.
with your nonsense. I'm coming with vaccines. I'm putting those Microsoft nano chips all up in your
uh,
ears. Anyway,
mhm.
uh,
I mean, Google beat you to it, but I mean, sure, bro.
oh, we. Video game droughts. Big releases in November, December usually, and then in January everybody's playing what they got for the holidays.
Mhm.
And generally speaking, January and February, not much comes out. We are now in the first week of March, end of the first week. So we're nearing the end of that period. Last year, what ended the drought was the beginning of the pandemic. Yay! But also the release of Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing. Those were the big titles that came out
Oh
on the two big
yeah,
platforms.
true. Hell
So
yeah.
we'll have a similar point of view, but that goes into different directions. Video game droughts. Is it a thing? Is it real? Is it just perception? What do you think? I'm going to start with our buddy LoPlo, our guest. What do you think?
I think is mostly perception, and it depends on the platform and also
Hmm.
the range of video game genres you're used to consume, quote unquote, consume. If you only consume AAA games, the drought seems like a real thing because sometimes AAA games are fixed to certain periods throughout the year. A little bit
Right.
like movie releases, like what big studios uh, do with their movies, or they used to do when cinemas were open.
The
um,
movie industry has the summer blockbusters, and
for
the
example, and the
video game industry has
Christmas,
the late
yeah,
fall and
Yeah.
Christmas
And the
yeah,
releases.
yeah,
Yeah.
seasonal greetings like Valentine's
yeah,
sometimes get releases.
exactly,
Halloween gets horror
exactly,
movie
exactly.
releases, etc., etc. Sure.
The movies that release in January, February will not release in summer blockbuster because they're afraid of competing with that audience type of thing.
Right.
And
Okay.
I think the video game industry is kind of similar. There are a lot of different ranges of games, be it AAA, AA, whatever, indie, and then you have the different genres. Uh,
Quick parenthesis though, it seems that over the
Mobile
last 3 or 4
game.
years, we've had
Hmm.
big AAA games and then a swarm of indie games, and the stuff that's in
Hmm.
between, we have
Hmm.
less of that nowadays compared to years ago. But yeah,
And it
carry on.
depends the platform because I was coming to the other point to this is that most gamers of our generation we tend to forget. This is kind of similar to the point I did in another episode of these. Is mobile gaming. Mobile gaming is extremely big,
Right.
and in
I didn't
mobile
even think
gaming,
about how this affects mobile gaming, to be honest.
Like I think the releases are a bit more regular because there's always something
Right.
in mobile gaming, right? Um, but yes, I think that's the surface point I wanted to make. Like it's perception, but sometimes perception makes it real, depending on what your
Absolutely. Yeah.
interests of enjoyment are.
Not just in video games, right?
Not only video
Let's
games.
move on to Mr. Jack. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I am of a similar opinion as our good friend Lawrence here. I mean, I don't feel the effects of drought. I never really have in my experience as a gamer. Maybe when I consume more AAA titles, I do think that that's where the big, divisive line is. Because especially if, I mean, for me, particularly since I'm more of an indie game consumer, I don't really feel affected by droughts because indie games don't really have marked seasons to be released. Indie games just come out as they get released, really, and the whole industry doesn't seem to affect that side of it. And there's always so many releases, and they always get a little bit, covered by all the expectations of the new games, the AAA games. But there's so much to play. There's so many things coming out, especially when you look at, well, obviously PC and Switch. Switch has a lot of indie games, also a lot of ports, a lot of different things. So there is a wide variety of choice for you to consume, really. I don't see it as a drought. I do agree that right now, if I want to pick a AAA game, I'm going to look at something that was released at the end of last year. I'm not going to look at something that was released now because there isn't
Yeah.
really any AAA game coming out now at all. Not that I can think. So,
In April, late March, April, we'll have a
yeah.
few, but not at the moment. No,
Besides
not really
port
anything.
and remakes, remasters, yeah.
So, just for the sake of clarity, LoPlo, are you looking at the lists right now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a list from, let's just compare last year and this year. Because
Yeah.
last year was the beginning of the pandemic. This year, we have to consider, obviously, the pandemic. A lot of games were delayed to later on. Also, we have to consider the fact that we have a new generation of consoles
Mm,
that came out, but that people don't have access to yet. And by people, I mean most gamers who actually want to get access to them. And the fact that
Yeah.
number three, there are virtually zero launch titles for both of these platforms. And I'm talking about the Xbox Series X and the PS5. PS5 had Spider-Man Miles
With an
Morales.
asterisk. Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah, with the remake, quote unquote
yeah.
remake of the PS4 Spider-Man, which came out 2 years ago, which is odd,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
Demon Souls, and Astro's Playroom, but that's it. And the Series X, I can't off the top of my head name any launch titles for
The
the
launch
Series
title
X.
for the Series X is like Falconeer. Medium was a launch title, pretty much. I mean, so to say, it is kind of a launch
Sure.
title. I thought the new Hellblade would have been a launch title, but it wasn't.
I thought so
Um,
too. Would have been a guess of mine for a year ago, I think. But
just because it would make sense,
yeah.
because I believe Hellblade was literally, wasn't it also like one of the launch titles for the one? Or was it just an exclusive that came later on?
No,
I
it
don't
was
know,
an exclusive. It was
honestly.
an
Okay.
exclusive. It wasn't a yeah.
Okay.
So this year we have to consider that obviously. So pandemic and the in between period of consoles,
Sure.
which generally is when the best games come out, is at the end of a generation, obviously.
Mm.
And we've been having great games the past year. But what about comparing last year? What can you show us, Lolo, from January and February and March? Compared to this year's
uh,
January, February, and March.
I think we can at least mention a little blip in
Hmm.
how things usually go, and that is Hitman 3 that came out this
Yes,
year in
there's always a
January.
couple of things that come
Yeah.
out during that
Mhm.
period. It's true.
That could be
Not a
considered
bunch,
a
but a few.
AAA game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, the thumb rule seems to be a lot of remasters, remakes, and ports,
Hmm.
like
Yep.
Age of Empires or Scott Pilgrim, and then
DLC or events. right? Events are a big thing as well that we have to consider for people who play the online service
Yakuza
games.
Remastered and Neo and whatnot. But also
Yeah,
like the niche audiences, like type of video game genres that are not necessarily like reach a broader audience. And I'm thinking like JRPGs and other more niche
right.
genres. The biggest release this year in January might have been Atelier Ryza or Disgaea 6
Mm, true.
and Ys 9 in
Yeah, but this
February.
is all stuff that most people, not really,
Mm.
not most people, casual gamers who
No,
play
but you're right.
AAA
Yeah,
titles and in the
that's why
public
I
eye
say
don't pay
exactly.
attention. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
um,
true.
Um,
can I also mention another game that I don't know if it's considered AAA, maybe it's just AA, but a game that came out in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the year is
mhm.
Neo 2. For
Yep.
whoever's played the other Neo.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
true.
it went a little bit under the radar, but that is
It
actually
was
looks to be a very good
a
fucking
shadow
game.
drop almost.
I
Well,
don't know if this will be too long of an argument, but do you think that Sekiro kind of made a dent in the Neo
I don't know because they're
audience
very.
market?
The thing is, they're very different.
They're similar but different.
They're
Yeah,
very
yeah.
Neo
different.
is an exclusive as well, isn't
No,
it?
Neo is an
Neo
exclusive. It's
2?
also on the PC.
It's also on
Okay,
It's
PC.
also on
it's on
PC.
Ah.
PC as well. All right, so Neo 2, the first Neo was is a bit different to the Souls game. It's in the same genre, but not it's
Mm-hmm.
not from
Yeah.
software, right? It's from a different
No, no, no. It's
developer.
Sony Interactive Entertainment,
Yeah.
Koei
So
Tecmo.
yeah,
and
something like
it's
that.
In
mostly the
Ninja.
people who I know that played Neo played it on PS4
PS4.
mostly,
Yeah. Well,
and
yeah, it
it's
was
a little
exclusive
bit of a
for
different
them.
game
Yeah.
that way. Yeah, and I think Neo 2. I've seen footage. I've heard and seen things of Neo 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how, unless you're a Neo fan, why would you be excited for Neo 2?
No, absolutely.
You know
I
what I
agree
mean?
with you. No, I agree.
Um,
True.
so yeah, when I look at last year, January, I'm taking a look at it. January is not that weak actually. I'm not counting in Monster Hunter Iceborne because that's a DLC
Yeah, it's a
slash
DLC.
event thing.
True.
But there is Kentucky Route Zero, which later on the year became
But we're talking about indie games then.
a yeah. But I mean, like
Right.
Kentucky Route Zero came out in January, but it didn't reach popularity until later 2020. We've had Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Um,
Ugh.
we had yeah, exactly. Ugh.
Ugh.
That
Another
small
Dragon Ball
Witcher
game, bro.
game,
Yeah.
uh, Thronebreaker, Zombie Army 4, Monster Energy Supercross, Darksiders Genesis, which is for Darksiders fans, Yakuza 5, which came out in
It was
February
decent.
last
I
year.
played a bit
That
of it. It was okay.
yeah,
I mean, it's a Yakuza
and then
game. You
there's
played one, you played all of them.
there you go. And then there's a bunch of smaller releases that didn't really make much of a dent up until March. Um, and in 2021, looking at it, I would say 2021 is even thinner or slimmer um, than 2020 in that sense, for obvious reasons, as we discussed.
You are talking from a
Um,
general perspective, not a platform
from a general
indicated
perspective,
perspective.
not the
Okay.
platform. Yeah, yeah, yeah. From a
Okay. Okay.
general perspective, like big things, advertising for video games you would see on billboards or in
Sure.
subways and
Sure.
things like that, or in
Metro
magazines as well.
Redux might have been a big release, though, I'm thinking, at the end of February
I
last year.
think Metro Redux it
Was
was the first proper big release for the Metro saga slash franchise.
did it only get released
Um,
last year? I thought it was older than that.
not Redux, sorry. Metro
Redux is a
Redux is the
port, I
first two
think. Of,
together.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the
okay.
port.
Okay. Okay.
Metro 23. No, what was the name of the Exodus? Was the big release for Metro?
Exodus.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So moving on to, I mean, segueing on this, does the video game drought affect you guys? Is it actual real beyond perception? Is it a real
mm,
thing for you individually? Bear in mind that both of you have traditionally been playing on Switch and Xbox, and most recently PC as well. But Jack, traditionally you play on Xbox and Switch,
Yeah.
and our good friend Lolo here plays on Switch almost
For the
exclusively up
past
until
four
recently.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, video game drought of the past 4 years until now, is it a thing for you? Yes or no? Lolo, go. Beyond perception, how
Um,
you feel about it.
Despite the argument I started off with, saying that it is subjective and not very real, it still applies to some things. And in my case personally, it's actually helpful because I find myself in a period where they are not like big releases. I will have a good amount of time to go back to my backlog of games and try to finish some of the games I kind of left it on standby midway through type of thing.
Right.
And
Preach.
Yes.
and that is a weird problem that we have nowadays that there are so many games, and that's a very luxurious problem to have. Like
First
I'm not
world
Oh
complaining
problems.
about.
no, all this
Yeah.
disposable income. My God, I
uh,
hate my life.
but it's weird that we reach a point where we just accumulate so many games in our collection that we
On our
end up having
shelves,
to
right?
decide what games do I actually complete, what games do I leave later. And sometimes, because of sales, you end up maybe buying a bunch of games that you will never finish.
Yeah.
And I am definitely guilty of those. So sometimes, although I did argue in the beginning that the drought is not real, it does affect in the sense that when there is no major game releases, I will use that as an opportunity to go on my backlog and try to finish games I have on stand. That's basically the gist of it.
Right. So I'll hook what you have to say and say that
Mm-hmm.
personally, for me, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't affect me at all. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care about the drought. It just means that
Exactly.
when I'm listening to video game podcasts or scrolling through the news and stuff, it means they're not going to talk about new games or games coming out, or maybe they will talk about how there's no new games coming out. It doesn't affect me whatsoever. I love playing
Mm-hmm.
old games, meaning 5 years, 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth.
And beyond,
Games
maybe.
that
Yeah.
came out
Mm-hmm.
recently, games that, on what you're saying, that I downloaded, that I bought and didn't touch,
Mm-hmm.
um, things like that. And that's pretty much how I play my games throughout the year. The draw doesn't have a big impact on me. The sales season have a much bigger impact for me. The Steam sale and
Steam sales,
the
for
Black
example.
Friday sales, the Christmas sales, there's sales for everything nowadays. I only
Aren't there
buy
Steam
maybe.
sales in
Hmm?
January, February as well sometimes? Aren't there like Steam sales in January,
There's
February
Steam
as well
sales
sometimes?
every weekend and every midweek
There's
anyway. So if we're gonna look at it
yeah,
that
but
way,
Yeah.
the big ones are Christmas, summer,
fall
Halloween,
and
and
winter, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
Um, the big ones being the winter and summer sale, where pretty much everything is on discount.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
Personally, I feel it doesn't affect me as much, also because of that, but as well because, like our friend will take the word from my mouth right next to it, I don't buy that many new games. I don't. I care about checking them out. I like to see the footage. I like to see how people react to it because it's a good way for me to think, come sale season, will I get this or not?
Mm.
Because for me, a AAA game that's discounted to 40% still feels like a bigger purchase to me,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like I can either get four really, really cool games that came out a few years ago, or I can get one really cool game that came out 6 months ago for 40 pounds or dollars or whatever, or euros and stuff. So I don't care about the drought season. It doesn't affect me at all in that sense. So yeah, Mr. Reinhardt, how do you feel about the drought
Well,
season?
I'm like you guys. I mean, again, I am like I said in the beginning of this conversation, I'm an indie gamer mostly. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I've never felt like I have a shortage of games to play at any point of the year. Like it makes no difference. There's always new releases, there's always something to play. Independently of that, I am like you. I don't buy new games for full price. It's very rare. It has to be something I'm really interested in. The last
Super amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
the last two games I bought full price was Red Dead Redemption 2 when it came out and
Hmm.
Sekiro. Those were the last two games I bought full price. Those are 2019 games, if I'm correct.
Right.
Right? So
Yeah.
they're
2019.
both
Yeah.
2019 games. So, I mean, it really
Didn't you get
makes.
Animal Crossing in 2020?
Fuck off, bro. Animal Crossing. I am a Harvest Moon player all the way. I don't gotta play fucking Animal Crossing, man. Fuck that
Stardew
shit.
Valley, what Harvest Moon?
Where do you think Stardew Valley gets its essence from? Harvest Moon. That's what I mean.
But
And
I am a self-centered cunt. We played it together, okay?
fine, fine,
So
fine.
Stardew Valley is what's important and
Okay,
competing with Animal Crossing.
fine. But the thing is, I do know a lot of. I have a lot of friends. Obviously, we all have friends who are gamers, but a lot of my friends that are
Mm.
maybe more active than I am within the gaming community and are actually a lot more active in reviewing games or actually testing games. I know people who are in these sectors, and I do hear a lot of complaints about the lack of releases and things like that. At the same time,
Interesting.
these are people that I know are looking for the AAA games and games that actually make an impact. They also test other games, but it's not
Right.
necessarily anything interesting for them. It's like, yeah, okay, I tested this game. It's a job. I'm doing this. I'm going to give feedback to the developers. I'm going to give feedback about the bugs, etc. But the
Mhm.
enjoyment isn't so much there because what they want and why they get into this is not only to test games, but test games pre-release, games that are coming out that everybody's expecting and shit. So in that way, I understand that the drought can have its consequences for the industry, but it's more, I don't feel like it's so much for a consumeristic reason that the drought affects us. It's more for
Right.
an elite kind of like consumer reason because your casual
Mm.
gamer will never get affected by a drought. Never.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm not saying I don't think we're
Only
casual.
perception-wise,
Yeah.
as we said in the beginning,
And
probably.
again, I don't think we're casual gamers, but I don't necessarily think we're elite
Serious
gamers.
hobbyists.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Dude, I'll play every day. Sure. I'm not a casual. I can play games, but at the same time,
Dedicated enthusiasts.
yeah, exactly. But at the same time, I feel like I'm probably even less than both of you guys because you guys are much more up to date than I am in terms of what's coming
Sure.
out in
I
AAA and
have
shit.
less time to play though.
Depends in what area, I'd say.
Sure,
Like
I
sure,
think
there's
so
sure.
too. I
definitely
agree.
some
Depends on the area.
genres that I feel like you're much more
Yeah,
knowledgeable than
but
I am.
I'm very knowledgeable in old games as well because that's my interest.
Hmm.
I still research old games to play old games. Now, I'll look at games from the Spectrum and the Atari and the NES and all those things that are, 90s and pre-90s. That's what I enjoy personally.
But also like the current industry of indie games that are reminiscent of those
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
that you enjoy. Yeah.
So, which takes me to my next point.
Hmm.
I play on Xbox. I pay attention to what's coming on Xbox and what's coming on PC. I have no idea what's coming on Nintendo. Is there a drought for Nintendo?
No.
Usually like I remember in the first year where the Nintendo Switch came out, in the beginning it was a little bit of a slow start. Obviously, the big name was Legend of Zelda:
Every
Breath of the
console
Wild.
generation has a bit of a
Yeah.
slower
It's what's
start,
happening now with the
usually.
PS5 and the Series X. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Although that's a
So
very slow start. That's
but then eventually,
COVID
after
though.
the first year had gone, it was like a tsunami of
Yep.
different stuff: indie, sports,
Hmm.
remasters, whatnot.
I will
Yeah.
say though, as a Switch player myself, because I had the Switch before having the Xbox One as well, and
Hmm.
I feel like I felt like there was a lack of releases in terms of comparison to the other platforms. In that
Mm.
way,
Mm.
I felt that not
Maybe first
having
party releases
first party
sometimes is
releases,
not as much. Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
I felt like by having a Switch, I was missing out on a lot of the gaming content that was coming out because Switch is,
Right.
very focused on, primarily porting indies and Nintendo, or like third party shit and remasterings. But like great titles like sequel, like Red Dead Redemption, for example. When that shit came out, I was like, I love the first one. I want to play the second one, but I don't have a fucking
Hmm.
Xbox. I can't do it. So I'm like, if I have at least either an Xbox or a PlayStation, I can play these games. Like that I could not otherwise with Nintendo. That for me was what having a Switch was. The only problem I felt was that I lagged behind other gamers when it came to
But that's
trying out
connected
certain
to your
games.
platform. Then it doesn't have much to do with seasonal releases and stuff,
No, no, you're
right?
you're right. You're right. You're
It's
right.
limited to your platform.
True,
Yeah.
true, true.
Um, and on that note, actually, I kind of feel sorry for people who bought a PS5 and an Xbox Series X because actually the people who bought the Xbox Series X, they probably bought it not for the exclusives, they bought it for the service that you get and Game Pass and
Yeah,
Sure.
upresing everything, making everything
Yeah.
look amazing. That's why
quote
I would
unquote
get one
customer
too.
I mean,
service,
yeah,
Customer
everybody.
service and what do you call it?
the
A catalog,
deals
huge back catalog of
Yeah.
games ready for you to play
catalog.
I
that
mean,
will look amazing and even better than when they were released in the first place.
that's the
For
thing about
PS5 though,
the Xbox. I mean, people buy it for its ability to be a full-on
yeah,
entertainment system with a lot of,
yeah,
diversity. PlayStation, you
it can
buy,
play
I mean,
everything.
we say this a lot, but PlayStation, Sony platforms, you buy them for the
It's about the
exclusives.
exclusives, yeah.
It's all about the exclusives, which are great. I'm not going to deny that. Not all of them, but most of them. So, I mean, yeah.
So I kind of feel for those people, both because the new generation is having a particularly, it's not even a slow start because a slow start means a slow start. The last generation got a slow start, but it was moving slowly. The current generation, it's like they get to the signal, paf, the race is supposed to start, and they got the wheel stuck in the mud.
Mm,
It's just not, they're not, I mean, stuff is going on, but nothing's moving forward. Um,
yeah, well,
but yeah,
that's also because of exterior factors that can't really be controlled, right?
obviously.
So, I mean,
Uh,
that's
but
part of the
that being
reason.
said, if you feel like you're affected by the drought, does anyone feel like it? Just go and play other super cool titles which are available
Hell
both
yeah.
on the PlayStation service, on Steam, they're on Xbox Game Pass. Download a free to play game and check out the events they have. Circle through those and play them on a short for the short time. Maybe it's time for you to get into Warframe, right? It's free and there's a lot of it, a lot of stuff for you there.
Always time to go into
Um,
Warframe.
yeah, there you go. We have a good supporter. Yeah. So, anything you guys would like to add before we sign off?
Are we still gonna talk later on about I don't know, did we mention already the games that were coming out that already came out this year or not? I don't remember if we mentioned them already. No, right?
A couple of
A
A
them,
couple of them.
few
but we
that came out this year already.
Yeah, because I think we mentioned some, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to mention as well, like on the PC, for example, something that came out now that's having a lot of popularity, for example,
Hmm.
is Valheim. Valheim is like
Valheim has
Valheim is
been
exploding
taking the world by
everywhere.
storm. Yeah,
It's fucking
it's all over.
insane. Holy
I
shit.
wanted to
yeah,
keep that for. I actually
the
think that we
PC
should record an
platform
episode about
is
this for next week.
yeah.
Like we
Okay.
should
Mm.
play it and then talk about it next week. I think
Sounds
it'd be a
good
good
to me,
idea
bro.
because it's taking the world by storm. And I'm not a survival game type of
I know you're
player,
not. I am.
but when a game is good, it's good. I don't care what type of game it
Mm.
is. If it's fun, it's fun.
But
Yeah, I
I
think.
think Jack brings up a very good point. Is that this tends to happen with both PC and mobile devices? Is that
Hmm.
it seems that the market in both PC and mobile devices are very different from console, in the sense
Yes.
that you will find more interesting, innovative, surprising, and sometimes impactful uh, games at any
Yeah.
stage of the year.
In that sense, the quote unquote drought will just shed light on what's available, right? When you go to a shop and you go to a menu and you say, "Oh, I want the bacon cheeseburger," like, well, we're out of beef, so we got the chicken burger. If you want, you're like, okay, I'm still hungry, so I'll take that. And then you realize, oh my god, this chicken burger is amazing. And I think that might happen too by process of elimination or not having certain tiles available. That people will go and play other things that they maybe wouldn't play if they had a bunch of AAA games available to them. So that's a really good point. Yeah. Anything else?
Nope. Good for now.
No. Mr. LoPlo, thank you for joining us as usual.
Thanks for having me again. I enjoyed these a lot.
Guys, you can see us, you can meet us, chat with us on Twitch. We have _Jack Reinhardt, who is streaming regularly. The links are here somewhere. I'm not editing this video.
Everywhere.
Dagon Keldron as well, Mr. LoPlo. He's going through a Skyrim run at the moment that is very, very good, narrative driven. He's actually playing a role playing game, which is great. And you can
Light
find me on
role-playing,
Twitch as
yeah.
well at P4PU Papu _91.
Yeah.
And yeah, good things coming. And I guess that next week we'll talk about Valheim.
Sounds good to
Bye-bye.
me. See ya.
Mwah.